Okay. The recording that was made on Tuesday, I get sent that usually in a couple of hours. Sometimes it takes almost all night. Okay, I get it. But this time I only got the first half. I didn't get the second recording. I did it in two parts, before the break and after the break. So I'm unable to do that second part to post it up. And what did we discuss during the second part there? Oh, I remember the second. The first part we did the endocrine system. That's posted. Okay, and of course that doesn't have anything to do with P3. Uh, the portion that did have to do with P3, we started again. We talked about the fetal circulation. Everything we talked about in the part for the recording, which I did not receive, is in text. It's in the modules. It's there to look over once again. So I'm sorry I can't post it, but I'm happy for you. You don't have to listen to me again. And I will post this one that I'm doing right now, of course, tonight, and go from there. There's another reason I couldn't post the second half, even though I didn't get it. Had I gotten it, I realized that as I was signing off, people were coming and waiting their turn sort of on the side to ask me questions. Some definitely waited to the end to talk in private. And I have no way of editing what they send to me, and I could not post the private conversation. So that won't happen again anyway. I'm aware of that now. So if I have a private conversation coming up, I'll end the recording early. But I didn't receive it anyhow. Okay, let's move on. You're able to see this?
Yes.
Okay. That's where I was checking to see that the other one student was successfully got started on the test. And if you're worried that, oh, hey, the test is open, well, the test is open, but nobody else saw it except for this one student who's taking it for real. The test is passworded, so nobody could actually stumble in on it. And you don't have to worry that somebody knows more about the test than you do. Okay, it'll be all fresh for you on Tuesday. Okay, I'm in module. I don't like that word. Do you like that word? Module doesn't bother you?
No bothers here.
We can. I guess you can handle it better than me. Okay, week 13. Here's the website I was referring to. If you want to look up those terms, here's the checklist for materials that are going to be on P3. Okay, here's reading material, including the fetal circulation that I said we did on Tuesday. Here's the first recording of the month. Here's the one for Tuesday. And I'm coming down here to the lymph. Okay. Let me show you first what this looks like. The lymphatic system cleanses the blood, gets rid of bacteria, gets rid of broken red blood cells. Really does a good job. You know, as the blood goes to the glomerulus in the kidney, it's under pressure and plasma is pressed out. But as blood enters capillaries throughout the body, anywhere in the body, there's going to be pressure, and fluid portion or plasma of the blood is pressed out. And some of that is pressed out, not all of it, of course, but some of it that's pressed out then is processed it's sent back into the circulatory system through the lymphatic system. And on its way, the lymphatic system, you'll see in a moment, cleanses it. Now, this is a PowerPoint, and you know, I'm not keen on PowerPoints. This is the same type of PowerPoint that the last one was made. I think the last one was better. It was on the heart. Okay, and this one is just showing an overview. There's nothing. There's everything to learn here, but nothing that you need to worry about. It's all included in the rest of the PowerPoint. It's chapter 21 in the book. And then it has introduction to the lymphatic system. I think this is why I don't like PowerPoints. This is a professional PowerPoint used by one instructor that we have in particular. She loves them. She uses them all the time. I sub for her class occasionally when she's out of town, and she wants me to use these PowerPoints. I hate them. Hate them. The lymphatic system. Okay. I can just tell you it's a network of capillaries. It's found throughout the body. It carries lymph. That's the expressed fluid of the blood. It carries it in one direction only, okay, from the tissues to the heart. And then we have a blank here that nobody can figure out what's supposed to fit in there. I think the word not is the best word that fits in there. It's not a circuit. Okay. Now, don't try writing this down, or you can stop trying to write it down. You'll see why in just a second. This goes through the lymphatic system, and I'll be going through this with you just in a second. And it's got a lot of blanks, so that as the instructor talks, you're supposed to fill in the blanks. Uh, I, I never liked that. I guess there's teaching methods for each person. This is not my favorite method, so I have to make it usable. And so what I did, underneath lymph, okay, are the answers. It's the same lecture, but the answers are already going to be filled in, okay? If you want to read through this or listen as I go through it, and then on your own go back when you're ready to study for the last lecture exam, that'll be after the practicum, I hope. When you're ready to study for the lymph system, you can go to the blank one, the one that said lymph that I was just looking at, and see how much you can fill in. And then you can check from here. Or you can go here first, and then go to the blank one. Okay, so starting over, and this time with all the words filled in. The lymphatic system is this network of capillaries. It's found throughout the body, everywhere in the body. Carries lymph fluid. Lymph fluid is what's pressed out of the capillaries, and it won't contain formed elements of the blood, but it will contain proteins and it will contain fluids. Hopefully it will contain bacteria that we don't want and broken or dead pieces of cell. And it moves only from the tissues to the heart. It does not move from the heart towards the tissues. Well, that's because the blood in the arterial system has to reach the capillaries, and that's going to be in the tissues. Once reaching the capillaries, it's under pressure, and the lymph fluid can be expressed. If you don't know the word expressed, it means to be pushed out by pressure. This is not a circuit. This is not like systemic circulation or pulmonary circulation that ends up where it started. The main functions of the lymphatic system, okay, this is important. First off, any leaked fluids and proteins, things that did get out, that don't need any processing, they need to be returned. And they will go back towards the heart, not directly to the heart, but towards it, to the subclavian veins, and be dumped back into the circulatory system at that point. So we got to retain fluids and return them to the circulatory system. The second function is that the lymph captures bacteria and pathogens as part of the immune system. Okay. And the absorption of lipids. The absorption of lipids is in the intestines. When we talked about the intestines, and we talked about the uh, tunica mucosa of the small intestine, I hope I mentioned at that point the presence of lacteals. If I did not, we are going to cover it in the last section for the practicum 4. But the lacteals absorb lipids from the small intestine. We know the small intestine is a place for emulsification of fats. And once that happens and they're made to be very small droplets, they can be absorbed by lacteals. Here's the skinny, I guess is what they call it. Blood goes from the heart, arterial system. We're bypassing everything here until we get to capillaries. These capillaries can be in your finger, your toe, your abdominal wall, it can be anywhere. And when there are capillaries, there's pressure in lymph. These arrows here, 4 arrows, is pressed out. Okay, the remainder of the blood returns to the systemic circulation. So yes, there is systemic circulation in this picture, but now the lymphatic is not a circulation. The lymph goes into these vessels. These are called lymph capillaries. Here's the term right here, lymph capillaries. And the blood goes slowly through here until it gets to these small little lymph collecting vessels. That's these things that look like nodes. Okay. These aren't the lymph nodes. These larger ones are the lymph nodes. These are lymph collecting vessels. And in a lymph collecting vessel, it's blown up here, it has a valve. Not just one valve necessarily, but several. As you travel along, the blood is moving away from the capillaries towards the lymph node through valves to stop it from going backwards. Okay. We've seen that in veins, same thing. Then the blood comes to a lymph node, which is labeled up here. Sorry about that. And we have incoming. These are afferent vessels, and there are many afferent vessels coming into each lymph node. It's at the lymph node that the bacteria are destroyed. Okay. Red blood cells that are broken down are destroyed. Okay. And then the fluid moves on here, here, through the efferent lymph collecting vessels. Afferent, and then out, efferent. At this point, moving outward, efferently, it's going right back, and it's going to get dumped into the venous system near the heart, on the right or the left or both sides of the body. We have subclavian veins, a right and a left subclavian vein. All of us have a entrance on the left side. It's called the thoracic duct. It's not shown here, so let's find where it is. No. Okay. What color is this?
Green.
Like green.
Green? Okay. This is the lymph coming back. No matter where it comes from in the body, even if it's, say, the big toe, comes all the way back up. Here are brachiocephalic veins. Okay. Here is the left subclavian vein. Here is the right subclavian vein. And the lymph dumps back in right here at the left subclavian vein from what's called the left subclavian trunk of the lymphatic system. Okay. It's come back in and now it joins the general circulation. On the other side, we may have the right lymphatic duct. Some of us, I don't know who it is, you and me, don't have the right duct. We don't have the right duct. We only have the left, but the left is sufficient. So the processed lymph fluid now returns and the valuable fluids and proteins are retained. Okay, coming back down from this last drawing, lymphatic vessels. Here we can just see, here's an arteriole. We would expect between an arteriole and a venule inside of an organ that there be a set of capillaries, and here they are. These capillaries press out lymph. Lymph is also known as interstitial fluid, which is nowhere on this PowerPoint, but in case you ever run across the word. The lymph is collected by the lymph capillary here, here, here. They condense and they finally end up at the lymphatic ducts, which empty into the subclavian. The lymph capillary, to say it right, looks like this when it's magnified. It has small slits in its side. These almost serve as valves, but they're not valves. They're just openings, and they're to allow the lymph to come in. The lymph is under pressure, so it can't go backwards. Lacteals, those are the lymph vessels right in the middle here, not the red or the blue. And this is inside of a villus of the small intestine. The small intestine opened, here are the villi on the plicae circularis, and it's the lacteal that absorbs lipid from the small intestine. It absorbs it and it concentrates it, and the lymph fluid that is absorbed, the lipid that is absorbed, looks like milk. In most of the rest of the body, the lymph is clear, but in the lacteal, it's milky. The collecting vessels, okay, they travel alongside arteries and veins because as the arteries pulsate and move the contents of the veins, they also move the contents of the lymph vessels. We talked about this with the use of muscular arteries pulsating slightly and being next to a vein. By pulsating into a vein, the muscular artery causes the blood in the vein to move, and since there are valves in the vein, once the blood has passed these valves, it can't go back, so it's moving in one direction. And that's exactly what's happening here in the lymph collecting vessels. The valves are numerous. The fluid movement is aided by skeletal muscle, just you walking around, sitting up, anything that you can do uh, to move a synovial joint, okay, with the skeletal muscle will help move the lymph. Okay. And then the arteries pumping nearby that we just mentioned causes the lymph to move as well. If the lymph does not move, if it accumulates, it'll usually accumulate in the feet or the lower half of the calf, or sometimes even higher up, and cause a swelling. And that's called edema. Edema. I don't know if you've ever had it. High blood pressure can cause edema as well. Medications can cause edema. You don't have to actually be sick yourself, but the cure sometimes is worse than the bite. The extreme form of edema is the elephantitis caused by this worm. And unfortunately, we don't have that worm around here. You don't want that. Most of the lymph nodes are bilateral. You have clusters of lymph nodes, not just one here, one there. You'll have many, many lymph nodes clustered under your armpit, axillary region, in other words. You'll have intestinal lymph nodes clusters, subclavian, lumbar, but these clusters are essentially bilateral in nature. The ducts themselves that we mentioned earlier are the larger lymph nodes, the final ones, final lymph vessels, I should say, that drain into the subclavian veins. On the right side, the right lymphatic duct drains into the upper right portions of the body, drains the upper right portions of the body. Now, that's the one that some of us don't have. So does that mean our upper right portion of the body doesn't get drained? No, it just takes a different pathway. The thoracic duct is the one on the left side. Everybody has a thoracic lymph duct. It drains the upper left and all of the lower part of the body. There's more words than you need here, but if you actually take a look at it, I think you're going to realize you know most of the words that are here. Okay. Those that you don't are not important. I just wanted to have this one here to show the upward motion, both sides. To the right thoracic lymph duct and the thoracic lymph duct. Lymph organs include, first off, the lymph nodes. We already saw one lymph node. We'll see another picture of it in just a second. Okay. These filter the lymph, they capture cancerous cells, and these lymph nodes can become encapsulated. Uh, that should have been an eye if they're fighting infection. They have afferent and efferent lymph vessels entering and departing them. So now you may probably be thinking back to that kidney bean shaped structure, a lymph node, and here it is. So here's just one of them. These 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in the drawing are afferent lymphatic vessels. They're bringing the lymph unprocessed yet to this lymph node for processing, and then out through the efferent lymphatic vessel. That can lead directly into the ducts that go back and join the regular circulatory system, or instead, the efferent lymphatic vessel can take the processed or partially processed lymph to the next lymph node in the sequence. There can be several that the lymph passes through before it finally returns to general circulation. If the material is cancerous and is not defeated, well, then the cancer can spread by this method as well. Here are the major organs of the lymphatic system. The largest is the spleen. The first is the lymph node itself. So if you're looking for number 1, as I am, it's up higher. Okay, here it is. Number 1, lymph node. The spleen. Okay, it also filters lymph, gets rid of blood cells, and it stores platelets. The thymus gland. The thymus gland, the word here, educates T lymphocytes, T cells. T cells are very important when you're first born. It's important that the T cells learn self from non-self, that they learn about antigens, and they will end up attacking invading material. The tonsils do the same thing. Peyer's patches. Peyer's patches, it's a good crossword puzzle thing. These are in the small intestine, in the ileum. Over here, these little, I think, purple dots indicate Peyer's patches. They're called aggregated lymphoid tissue. Aggregated, that just means brought together, clumped together. Lymphoid just means lymph. Okay, so this is lymphatic tissue. It's in the small intestine, and they're called also Peyer's patches. Okay. They're always in the ileum, and then the bone marrow itself. The types of lymphoid cells that we are going to deal with, there's just two. One is the T cell, which we just mentioned. The T cell gets, I don't know who made this up, it wasn't me, but I'm responsible. Antigen education in the thymus. In the thymus gland, when you're first born, these cells begin to learn to recognize antigens and to defeat them. Here's a T lymphocyte. You've heard of lymphocyte as a type of white blood cell. The T lymphocyte, the thymus lymphocyte, will come up to a cell that's a target. It doesn't belong there. It has antigens on its surface. It pierces the cell and essentially signals to the cell to die. It then pulls away, and the cell does just exactly that. It dies. Reminds me of the spy stories you hear coming out of Russia, where somebody comes up with a poison tip cane, sticks it in somebody's leg, and takes off, and they die. The second and last type of lymphocyte is the B lymphocyte. The B lymphocyte's on the bottom of the page here. Starts off looking just like the T lymphocyte that you can still see, except it converts into what's called a plasma cell. It changes its shape and produces antibodies. The antibodies then cling to invading bacteria or other uh, material, but mostly bacteria. And then those are signaled essentially to be destroyed. And then we have what's called a macrophage. A macrophage is a destroyed cell, coated with antibodies, and it's attacked by white blood cells.
So is that when the lymphatic or the lymph node gets bigger? Because I know that sometimes when you get the flu or when you're going through something really strong, your lymph nodes kind of swell up. Is
Yes.
that what happens?
Well, what happens is you get a proliferation of usually T cells. It can be T, B as well, but you get a proliferation of the cells. And as we all know, sometimes the swelling seems to be the worst part of it, but the swelling is necessary to get rid of the bacteria or other antigen that's invaded. The other thing I can think of that's necessary for healing of any sort, if you want to heal, you have to become inflamed. Inflammation is always goes along with healing. Okay? And of course, sometimes inflammation seems to be worse than problem that you had to begin with, but it will heal.
So going back because you said you mentioned how there is like lymph nodes in different regions. Does each different region have their own like site like like I remember you were talking about the the what was it like in the neck, the thoracic, you know what I mean? And I think it was
Yes.
the T cells, and like the bottom has like there how the the intestines has their own type of antigens and whatnot. I know like their own antigens, but you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think I know what you mean. Uh, First off, uh, morphologically, in other words, just how they look, the lymph nodes do look different in different parts of the body. The composition of the lymph node, though, is limited to these types of cells, and primarily the T and B lymphocytes. Uh, so I would expect that when you're very young and you're educating cells, and those cells are all originating from the thymus gland, that you really have the same artillery throughout the body.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay.
I actually had another quick question. If it doesn't like interfere with the lecture,
That's
it's
okay.
about the heart.
Yeah.
So I was looking. So I was going through the terms list, and I found that how you pronounce it? Auricles. Is that how you say it? Auricles. Auricles.
Oracle.
Auricles.
Oh,
I noticed that they're they're basically like the flaps. on the right and left side of the heart, but are those the same thing as the right atrium and left atrium?
No. Uh, okay. This is the right auricle. Okay. This is the right atrium. The right atrium is the chamber, and then as an extension of that chamber is the right auricle, or the auricle of the right atrium. They're, they're given different names. They are connected together. So you could look at it either way, but when the heart or atrium fills, and it's filling faster than normal, that would be when you're running or something like that, pumping faster. You need more space to collect, and the extra blood goes into the auricle. This particular model makes the auricle look solid. It is not. It has space in it as well. Let's see if we can get another one. Here's an auricle. Now here they're calling it right atrium, but actually the label is on the auricle, the flap.
Right.
And
So the atrium is the whole chamber itself underneath
that's
the
correct.
mark. Okay, I see.
And now here they show the auricle. They're showing it only at the tip. This isn't really perfectly accurate. The auricle is covering everything here on the outside, but the chamber underneath, that's the atrium.
Okay, cool. And then just another quick one. I was like, I didn't see on the lecture notes about coronary sulcus and sinus,
Okay,
but from
here's,
what but from oh, okay, yeah, that's what I was gonna say. So the coronary sinus is like basically adjacent, or if not, like right next to the great what's it called? The great blue vein. I forgot what it's called, but you know what I'm talking about? Like,
I know exactly what you're talking about. If you look at the screen now, this is the posterior of the heart, okay? Because here's the right atrium over here and the left atrium over here. Okay, you're at the back. You see this blue, I
yeah.
guess it's blue, vessel. That's the coronary sinus. The coronary sinus is also the name given to its emptying off point, dumping off point, entrance into the right atrium right here. That's the coronary sinus too. This brings deoxygenated blood back from coronary circulation. I've got a better picture. Let me find it. Here's a much better picture. Here's the coronary sinus. It's collected or is collecting blood from the coronary arteries that have fed the heart. And now the deoxygenated blood goes right back into the inferior vena cava first. In this drawing here, uh, the drawing I gave you shows that coming into the right atrium with superior vena cava and the inferior vena cava. So
Okay.
this is what you're looking for right here. Let's see if I have another. Come on. No, that that's the best of this set.
No, no, it's all good. That definitely answered my question.
Okay, thank
And
you.
then just one last thing for the coronary sulcus is on the arteries, right? The right and left coronary arteries. I hope that's right.
Okay, I want to find one that shows it well. Okay, this is good. Here's the left coronary artery. The right is coming out over here, but you can't see it. It's underneath the auricle. But you see these vessels,
Hmm.
okay, and veins. They are all in little valleys, as though they were rivers in a canyon. All of the depressions that they are in are called sulci. A singular is a sulcus. Okay, so this is a sulcus, this is a sulcus. Even the one here that the coronary sinus is running in a sulcus. Okay.
Okay.
A sulcus is not a structure. A sulcus is a depression.
Oh, okay. And so that's where the arteries and veins are supposedly like placed
Right.
in, right?
Whenever you see a river or a movie or whatever, the river's always down at the bottom of the canyon.
Uh-huh.
It's never up at the top. Okay, the canyon then is the sulcus.
Okay, I see what you mean. Thank you, Charlie.
You're welcome. Anybody else want anything off of these pictures? Since I got them up here. Okay. Okay. Well, I'm going to give you a 10-minute break. I don't feel like I need it myself today, but somebody does, just to get up, move around. Okay, so 3:11. I'll be right back. Okay, and then this is where we're going to start with the vessels. Okay, see you in a moment. Okay, we're back.
Hello.
Hello.
Okay. Did anybody think of a question? I didn't. It looks like you guys didn't do any chatting. Oh well.
Went straight to studying at that moment. I was like,
Oh
cool,
yeah,
10
I'm
minutes
sure
for the
you
break.
did. Did you really?
I did. I was contemplating a restroom break, but I put that on hold.
Yeah. Well, you can always do it. I mean, I can't see you. I listen in on other instructors. Oh, usually it's a art class or something like that, and the instructor wants to go over somebody's painting, and he's calling for them, and they're nowhere to be found. Their name's up there, but they're gone. They've gone to the store, or they've gone, who knows where else. Okay, so
A quick
I
question,
think
Charlie. Do you know how many questions are going to be in the practicum? I don't know if that's already been asked, but
100,
wonderful.
100 even. Okay. The one person that took it early, I can't. I guess I can, there's nothing I can say about it. I can say this: they finished it while we've been talking here, and did very well. But I don't know if that says anything because the particular person can't name always does very well. So uh, I guess that one thing I can draw a conclusion from is that this test is no uh, different than the others as far as difficulty is concerned. The difficulty is going to come not from you that are listening to me right now, uh, and so I don't know why I say it. It's just you just can't stop yourself. I can't. Today there's 20 people sitting here. I'm one of them. That's 19. Well, one person took the test. That's 20 people. Okay, that means 10 people aren't here today. I've noticed a couple of people haven't been here in a long time, and I've written them. And they say they have no internet or something. How are they going to take the test? They got to get that solved. But what I'm concerned with is don't burn out. Okay, what was that? You still with me?
Sound like a
Yeah.
bird.
Okay, you don't want to burn out now. Put in too much time. Most of you have decent grades. There's and if you want to keep them, you got to get through these last 4 tests that we have, and you'll have one of those under your belt on Tuesday. Uh, so just make use of our time, uh, and also if you need to email me over the weekend, anytime, doesn't matter. Uh, I always get to answer your email. I don't mind it at all. And you have some people want to know long explanations, and sometimes they're much shorter. But whatever they are, uh, just send them my way if you have any questions. Okay. I don't hesitate to send you emails. Oh, okay. Any questions before we start that material? Okay. You can see my screen?
Not yet.
Nope, I got to go back. Oh, that's right, I turned it off. Now you got me. Okay, vessels above the diaphragm. You know, we did this blind in a sense because we never had a cat in front of us. Even the last class, at least, had the ability to dissect the cat for a day before we had lockdown. And then they had to learn all the vessels the same way you are. One way, of course, was to follow the road map of this drawing that I have here, making sure that you realize this is veins on the upper half of the cat, of course. Okay. If you've looked at this drawing already, you'll be fine. If not, you're going to have to do it again on your own. We're going to go down to the photographs. This picture is not going to be on the test. This picture that you see in front, you're not going to label a cartoon. Take a moment to read this if you haven't. This is for the arteries. And again, it tells you about them, where they start, where they finish. Very good to read this portion. And practice diagram for yourself. You should, I think, do the practice diagram. You're not turning it in so you can scribble fast.
Does this also does that diagram include both arteries and veins, or just?
Okay. Right now, I'm on above the diaphragm. Okay. These are arteries. And these are veins. Nope, I'm sorry. These are arteries also. These two are arteries. And then above,
Oh, I see. No, okay.
the two that we started with are veins. Okay, just keep looking at this little spot here. Now you have me curious for a second, so hang on. Veins above. Practice veins above. Arteries above. Practice arteries above. So these four pictures are for the veins and the arteries, again, above the diaphragm. And they're all here. Okay, and then here's what we're looking at. The diaphragm is right here. Obviously, here's
Is
the
this the
heart.
picture we're going to be tested on?
Yes,
Okay.
these types of photographs exactly. And I can't apologize for the fact that some are better than others. It's just the way it is when we dissect. Some cats are better than others. Some injections to make these visible are better than others. And some student dissectors are just naturals and others are unnatural. Can't do it at all. So, okay, coming away from the heart, above it is the superior vena cava, right here. Normally, coming straight up from it would be the mammary vein. You don't have to say vein. I'm going to, but you don't have to put it down on your answer. You put the name of the vessel, the superior vena cava. It splits into two, going over here to the right and the left. These two parts are the brachiocephalic. When a vessel does not show well in one diagram or one picture, it will show better in another. Okay. Take the brachiocephalic, come here, and now we're going to follow it along the side of the face. This is the external jugular The line is right here. The external jugular vein. This cat was photographed really because it has an internal jugular vein right here. As we follow up the external jugular vein, and then let's come down it again. We find this vessel dropping down the side of the throat. This is the transverse scapula. Back up, superior vena cava, brachiocephalic. And the one that continues on, making this arch, is the subclavian. Not labeled here. And I'll occasionally give you one that is not labeled. Doesn't mean we have to label it. It's labeled on a later diagram. This vessel right here. This is the subscapular. Nope, it is not. I'm sorry about that. I got confused because of this one. That's a vertebral. This is the brachial. Now, if I were going to use this picture on the test, I only want to use it for things that are absolutely non-debatable. Okay? Non-debatable, that's the superior vena cava. Okay? I think it's non-debatable at this point, if I pin it here or point it here, that that's the external jugular. Okay? And I like the transverse scapular. Okay? I know that brachiocephalic is pretty good, but I know I'm going to find it better on another cat. Okay, so here we have essentially the same thing, but a different color. Here's the vena cava. Comes up and it splits here. This is the brachiocephalic. That's the brachiocephalic. What's this guy here? A fooler. This is a vertebral going down. Vertebrals usually latch on to the underside of the brachiocephalic vein or the superior vena cava. Here's the brachiocephalic. Here it's running up the side. This is the external jugular. This is the external maxillary. This is the lingual facial. This is the transverse jugular, also known as the transverse facial. Get back onto the track of the external jugular, which is not labeled here because it's going to be labeled in another one. But I come back, and here's the transverse scapular. What's this? An extra vessel. Cats, humans, we all have extras of some things, and maybe a few less of others. Come back down to here from the external jugular, meet the brachiocephalic again. And this part going out, first part is the subclavian again. Now here's the subscapular. Subscapular, transverse scapular. And then after the subscapular, all of this is brachial. I think some of the upcoming pictures are the same picture, but with different things labeled. Okay, so same picture, but different things are labeled. Here it does call this one a vertebral. Labels the subscapular, transverse scapular, maxillary. It can also be called external maxillary. The facial, it's also the lingual, facial, and transverse jugular. Nothing different here. I know we've got some good vessels here, carotids, but we'll be coming to those. Looking at the throat region, the transverse jugular goes across. This is the external jugular. This is the external jugular. Reaches this cross point here. It goes laterally as the maxillary and forward as the facial or lingual facial. Lingual facial shows better on that side. Now the human equivalent of these is identical except for two places, which I point out when necessary. Okay, now, where do I want to start here? Okay, this is the brachiocephalic vein. Here's one part, here's the second part. Remember, it makes a Y. The other part of the Y is back here, which is the superior vena cava. Brachiocephalic. Come to this point. Okay, follow it up and out, and you have the external jugular again. This is the internal jugular, a very large one. Often a cat won't show this at all. Back to this point again. Okay, and this is the subclavian. Oh yeah, this is unlabeled, the subscapular. This is the subscapular artery. The brachial is too far out to see. And what's missing here on the external jugular is that we don't see in this view anyway, the vessel going down here, the transverse scapular. Okay. That means that either was it injected, it doesn't show. It does not mean the cat didn't have one. Okay. Or it just means that the angle that the photo was taken from doesn't allow us to see it. The internal jugular is labeled over here. This vessel coming out here is the common carotid artery. Here it is on the other side. Mostly covered up, but you can see it. If I were going to pick one to label, it would be this one, common carotid artery. Coming down here arterially, then this is the subscapular artery. And after that, we have the brachial artery. You only need to say brachial. You can see a little blue in there. The brachial vein and the brachial artery run together, side by side. So rather than challenge anybody, just call it brachial. This is not anything new. We just did this. So I'm going to skip it unless you tell me stop. I think they needed some more light here, but I think let's see what we can make out of it. Here's the superior vena cava coming from the heart. We now turn and go out this part here and this part here, brachiocephalic. Subclavian goes out farther. The subscapular comes off of it. And after that, we have the brachial. This subclavian is very short. The subclavian ends where the subscapular begins. Here's the external jugular. It happens to be going around. Made a turn. They actually, if you concentrate and look at it, maybe you can't see it in your light right now. This is the transverse scapular vein. I would certainly look for one of the better ones than ask you that. These were donated by students. Okay, so that's that. You know what was missing here, if we're looking above the diaphragm, this vessel here, this is the superior vena cava. And coming off of it on the top would be the mammary vein. I believe I'm going to be able to show you mammary vein on another slide though. Let me back up. Quickly go through. That's the same. Okay, no. Below the diaphragm. Okay, for this one, here's the flow chart for the veins, after which there's a description and then a practice chart for you to fill in. It may seem that, well, practice and the real thing, you shouldn't be studying both. I think you should. I really think the practice chart helps you know what comes next. In other words, this is iliolumbar. Next up is going to be inferior mesenteric. Next up is going to be the gonadals, or the renals, I should say. Okay, so then we come to the pictures. Oh no, the arteries flow chart, artery practice chart, and these guys. There are a couple of these. I don't like the model. So flat, but we need to look at it. Okay. Here's the superior vena cava. Always a great place to start. Right next to it would be the aortic arch here. Come back to the superior vena cava, and it's going to split one way, and the second way is short. But the split of the vena cava, superior vena cava, the two branches are the brachiocephalic veins. This is brachiocephalic. And up it goes, the side is the external jugular vein. Okay. Now on this one, you're going to think, there's a difference. Yes, there is. The internal jugular vein now comes off here and goes into the skull. It does not come off down here, as in the cat. Important to know the subclavian artery, or subclavian. That's subclavian, right at the shoulder. On this side, subclavian artery and vein are both listed because they run side by side. So be sure you know the subclavian. This is the common carotid. Let's follow the subclavian down towards the upper arm. When you get to this point here, right where the scapula and humerus come together, or a little below at the armpit, this is the axillary artery. And on this side, the axillary artery and vein. Axilla means armpit, axillary means armpit.
Do I have a quick question for
Yeah.
the brand? What's the cephalic artery, right?
Here,
Yeah. Would that be considered the same thing as the brachiocephalic trunk?
yes,
Okay, so it would be kind of like the same thing, or
it is.
okay, cool.
It's the same thing. You're not going to be confused on the test because I'm going to use the term that I've used, and both terms won't be on the test. Okay, so there's not. I don't. I really don't think I have any trick questions on the test, and that would be if I did it that way. But let's go back and not leave that one behind. Here's the aortic arch, and as the aorta comes out from the left ventricle and then arches over, okay, there are three things that come off. One, two, three, when we looked at the heart. The first one is the brachiocephalic. That's this one. The second one is the common carotid. We follow that up, and yep, it's the carotid artery. And the third one is the subclavian. Okay, remember those one, two, threes. And then the subclavian was the next one coming off. The brachial artery is out in the arm. Anywhere from a mid-upper arm down, we'll call it brachial artery. The inferior vena cava is really below the diaphragm. Huh. I just realized that we were working below the diaphragm, but this model goes above the diaphragm. The idea was to get this model all together in one piece. So here we are at the diaphragm, and now we're truly below the diaphragm. Would have been nice to have white arrows, I think, or blue or yellow, something. Uh, let's follow the inferior vena cava first. It's right here. Here's the line to it, inferior vena cava. Then we have coming off of it the renal veins. I don't see the suprarenal vein in this one. Comes down farther and it splits and it splits. Okay. This is the common iliac. I have to switch the artery for a second. This is common iliac artery. Cats do not have a common iliac artery. That's the final difference. Here's a common iliac artery. Underneath it, here and here, is the common iliac vein. Humans have a symmetrical system, which is nice. Okay, common iliac, common iliac, common iliac, common iliac. Then diving deep are the internal iliac arteries and veins. Internal iliac artery and vein. This is pointing out here to the external iliac artery, but there's an external iliac vein as well. So, common iliac artery and vein. Internal iliac artery and vein over here as well. External iliac artery and vein. The abdominal aorta runs here. This little nub that comes out I have a great picture of this on a real cat. This is the inferior mesenteric artery, which goes to the colon. I don't feel that this, even though it's labeled, is good enough to use. I would never use these. If you remember on the other material that we looked at, we have coming in the upper thigh, the femoral artery and vein. Here's the popliteal artery that branches off of it. The popliteal runs posterior to the knee. This knee is turned outward. Look at where the kneecap is. Okay? So this is the back of the knee, the posterior, and that's where the popliteal goes. On the other side, the other leg, here you have the saphenous artery here and the greater saphenous vein over here. And this is straightforward at you. So this is the medial side. The saphenous artery is on the medial side. You see this one and get confused. You got to ask yourself, is it on the medial part or the posterior part of the leg? If it's posterior, it's popliteal. Okay? And if it's medial, it's saphenous.
Hey Charlie, do we have any pictures of the cat of the arteries below the diaphragm?
You know, I was just looking for that. I'm sure I showed them to you, but I'm not seeing it right
Yeah, I thought so too, but I don't know where they are.
now. Oh, let's see if I left them behind. Oh, I have to open that all up and find it. No, I just realized that came to a quick end. That oh, okay, we do. Okay, hang on. Okay, now that threw me for a moment too. So I'll probably have to send out an email to the 10 people who aren't here to tell them what to do here. I shouldn't have to, but I hate to leave anybody behind. First off, go to my website. That's where they are. Okay, so Charlie's website. This one I didn't have pop out, so you pop it out yourself by clicking at the top. Okay, and now in reviewing for the test, here's the Unit 3 material. Okay, it includes the PowerPoint of the eye, the ear, the brain, the spinal cord model again, the same stuff. but it has, in addition, these 4 power points. Don't forget you need to know the parts of the brain. You need to know the functions of the parts of the brain. Okay, so in no particular order, I think this one starts with the flat man. You need, and I need to go over with you these 4 power points. Okay, and that's where you're going to find those pictures we looked at. Okay, now it's actually clear, but it's the same picture. So we've seen this one, and we just got through seeing that one. And this one, I didn't show you. That means what?
It's not going to be on the.
Exactly what it means, right? Okay. And this one, this is going to be on the test. This was the common carotid artery splitting to the external carotid artery and the internal carotid artery, running back down through the transverse foramina of the cervical vertebra. This vessel here is the vertebral. This, okay, I think what I'm going to do for you is, right now, I am going over these, but I'm going to also, later tonight, come back, and this one's not of any use, okay? Oh, you can see the vertebral, okay, and the external carotid. That's okay. Anything like that foot, it's not useful. I'll take it out of the PowerPoint, and then I will send you guys the PowerPoint or the link to the PowerPoints so that you can not waste your time. You do not need to do the circle of Willis, for instance. Okay, that will be gone. 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 Okay, so now I'm back to this one, and now I'm going to here. Okay. The common carotid artery on both sides, easy. External jugular vein, I think it's easy. The aortic arch, I wouldn't ask that there. It's actually looks like it's pointing more to the common carotid. The superior vena cava, though, is good. The brachiocephalic is good. The brachiocephalic is good here. Here's an, this is the thyroid. We didn't talk about that. Okay, so I could use this one for what is labeled. I could also ask pulmonary vein, which is red, and pulmonary artery, which is blue. But since in that one case, you would have to give me artery or vein. Okay, next one. This says jugular vein. What's a better word for it? External jugular vein. Okay. Common carotid right here. Here's the superior vena cava. Here's the brachiocephalic. Here's the subclavian. We can't follow it any farther, but for what it's worth, those are nicely labeled. The abdominal aorta is here. The celiac trunk does not show well right here, so I wouldn't ask it on the model. Superior mesenteric is on the model, but it never shows well on the model. I'll show it to you on an actual cat. The gonadal coming off here, you can trace it to the gonads. Gonadal artery. Inferior mesenteric is here, but it doesn't show as well as it does on the actual cat. I just did the common iliac, internal iliac, and external iliacs for you on a model I think that was better. So that's the one I would use. This one's so blurry, I'm gonna cut it out.
Charlie, I have a quick question.
Sure.
Kind of, well, kind of off topic, but like I've seen a lot of movies like people get stabbed like in their abdomen,
Yeah.
and so I was just curious, like what would happen, like in that sort of sense, how would they be able to like repair like all the damage, like if they were to get into like the, you know, aortic, the abdominal aorta and all that sort of stuff, like, you know, how would they be able to like damage like the intestines and all that like sort of stuff?
Well, yeah, that's a little off topic, isn't it? I think the truth of the matter is that getting stabbed in the abdomen isn't always fatal, but it certainly can be. If you hit the vena cava or you hit the aorta, you've gone all the way to the back, and that person is probably going to die immediately. Okay, you can't get to it. It's like an aneurysm, an aortic aneurysm, or something, unless you had medical attention right there. That's it. As far as the abdomen itself, if you're just a straight in cut with the small intestine or even large intestine or one kidney, that would be very painful, but that could be repaired. That could be repaired. A spleen can be repaired. Often is, but if you're talking about a knife type wound. But I feel weird talking about it, but a knife wound that goes in and the knife is moved around intentionally inside, that's very apt to be fatal because
Okay.
you're getting
Yeah,
to
for sure. I just because I just saw this one video of this guy getting stabbed, and then like later he like recorded a video. It's like, yeah, guys, I got stabbed, but I'm gonna be fine. And like the EMT is like trying to help him.
well, no, you can survive it. It depends. If somebody just running by, you see it on the unfortunately in the news, too often, and they just straight in stab and out and gone, running away. It may not easily not be fatal. Okay, uh, let's see. This one shows a celiac trunk. I told you I'll ask that on the cat. Superior mesenteric, ask it on the cat. Inferior, I would ask it on the cat. Abdominal aorta, definitely would ask that here. And the inferior vena cava here. Now this shows the gonadal. It's a close-up picture of the model we saw just before. Femoral artery out here, outside of the abdomen. Okay. This is a little clearer. Okay. This does show the celiac trunk, as it's called. I prefer to show this on a cat. I prefer to show the superior mesenteric on a cat. And I prefer to show the inferior mesenteric, I said that, but the superior mesenteric. These three on a cat. Why? Because they have some length. We can really actually see where they are. These are the gonadals, though. And here's the gonadal vein, and the gonadal vein over here. This would be very good for the gonadals. Mid-sacral artery down the middle. Now they're labeled. Okay. This is not, this in my vocabulary, this is the iliolumbar artery and vein. So it's gone. Aortic arch. The thoracics are going down this vessel here. This large vessel is the descending thoracic aorta. Thoracics is correct. I used to teach it, but for some reason we've eliminated it recently. So there it's gone. Suprarenal shows right here. Again, they're doing the superior mesenteric, inferior mesenteric. The common iliac shows very nicely. Internal iliac, external iliac arteries and veins. Very good. Okay, let me save that one. Well, why can't they save it? Okay, I'll get it later. Okay. Review PowerPoint number 2. I think these 4 PowerPoints are the most important thing you could study out of anything this weekend. This starts with the heart, an actual sheep heart. Okay. The meat of the heart is the myocardium. This is the IV septum. The inside of the heart is endocardium, and the outside of the heart is the visceral pericardium, also known as the epicardium. Okay, so you want epicardium, endocardium, myocardium. Now it's nicely labeled. The left atrium up here, yes. Mitral valve is down here. Not labeled the aortic semilunar valve, which is right here. The left ventricle is this area, apex. Apex is not so easy that we don't ask it. IV septum, here's the right ventricle, the tricuspid valve. If you know the difference between right and left ventricle because of their size, then you know the valves that go along with it, even though they may not work perfect. Right atrium is up here. Frankly, if you don't mind me doing this, because I want to get it ready for you and not have to do it again. Okay, aortic semilunar valve. That's a really good one. Maybe you didn't realize this is the left-hand side over here, but you see it's bigger down here. This is the angle that it was cut. This is the right ventricle. Here's the mitral valve, chordae tendineae, and a good papillary muscle here. Papillary muscle, cords, and mitral valve, or valve cusp. This one again shows endocardium, myocardium, visceral pericardium. Nothing new there. Okay. The superior vena cava is, remember, it's flowing towards the heart. Okay. The aorta is going away. Here's the area of the right atrium, which we talked about a moment ago. The auricle is the flap-like covering. The right coronary artery is this one coming out here. And then the left pulmonary artery. Well, this is the pulmonary, here, this is the pulmonary trunk. I think it's too difficult to see the split here in this model. Okay, here's the pulmonary trunk. The left atrium, the left coronary artery, and it splits immediately in the apex. Okay. This is a posterior view of the heart. Don't be fooled by the trachea. Here's the aorta curving over. Okay, and here's the superior vena cava going up. Pulmonary veins here and here. This is a pulmonary artery. It's unlabeled, but I won't add the label to it. Pulmonary veins over here. Here's that coronary sinus, the inferior vena cava. On this large model that somebody broke, but it's still useful, we see the auricle. This happens to be the right auricle. Right atrium is under here, but it's actually not pointing to the right atrium. So we'll take that off of there, an apex. Here's the coronary sinus again. When you pull the pulmonary trunk back or away, here's pulmonary trunk in here, you have inside of it the pulmonary semilunar valve. Same model, pulmonary semilunar valve, pulmonary artery or trunk. The aortic semilunar valve is here. This is the left atrium, the mitral valve, chordae tendineae, trabeculae carneae, myocardium on the IV septum, and the aortic semilunar valve. Okay. Everything here we've done. This does show the pulmonary semilunar valve here. Two parts of it, two cusps. Where's the third cusp? It's down here on the model. It's swung away. Pulmonary semilunar valve, we just saw it. I don't think this picture does us any good. On the posterior side of the heart, they show the esophagus and the trachea just as reference. This is the inferior vena cava below. For the eye, and I think we'll bounce back to vessels really quickly. For the eye, the sclera is the white outer layer, thick. The cornea, if you touch your own eye, if you put a contact lens on your eye, you're going to touch it to the cornea. The pupil is the area between the iris. The iris is here, which can expand or contract, causing the pupil to get larger or smaller. Pupil is not a structure, it's a space. Here's the sclera again. The clear area is the cornea. The choroid coat is underneath the sclera and absorbs light that enters into the eye to stop it from scattering around. The posterior cavity is this entire structure back here. If you do any reading and you come across the word posterior segment, that is a slightly different thing. Please just use posterior cavity for the question that I will ask, and you'll get it correct. Okay. Don't call it posterior chamber, just call it posterior cavity. The anterior cavity is here in front of the lens, all this area here. You've ever gotten anything in your eye and you look at your eye trying to get whatever it is with a cloth or something like that. Or if you've ever lost a contact lens because it slid back in your eye, it's in the anterior cavity. The retina is the part that perceives light, channels it out through the optic nerve. Where the optic nerve leaves the eyeball, you have the optic disc, a blind spot. The place where light would normally focus if your eye were perfectly formed, not far or nearsighted, would be this spot right here. And that's the fovea centralis. Moving forward across the retina in the posterior chamber, we come to this scalloped region. This is the ora serrata. It absorbs light too. It stops it from straying. The white material is an area of smooth muscle that causes the lens to change its shape. This is the ciliary body. Ciliary body. Okay. Ora serrata, ciliary body. This is the iris. It's in the anterior chamber. The reason we don't have separation between anterior and posterior right now, we got to drop the lens into this donut. Okay, here's the cornea of the eyeball. And then behind it, the sclera. The retina usually shreds somewhat, but I have seen it perfect. This is the retina, very, very thin film. The dark, iridescent, black or blue or silver material is the choroid coat. The lens belongs here. And I don't think that this is a good representation of cornea. Oh, God. Okay. For the ear, the pinna, auditory canal, acoustic meatus, acoustic canal. You shouldn't be fooled by any of those words being synonyms. The tympanum, never eardrum, and the eustachian tube. We can see up in here the rest of the ear. We can see the ossicles, the cochlea. This is the vestibule here, which holds the fluid that fills the semicircular canals. You need to know the function of semicircular canals, providing equilibrium, cochlea for perceiving sound, ossicles for transmitting sound. Okay. Same thing for the tympanum. Eustachian tube, its function to equalize pressure on both sides of the tympanum. This is just showing you a neutrophil, a monocyte, and monocyte's the big one, and a lymphocyte. This is an artery with a large tunica media. The externa and intima or interna are not large. This is a vein. The vein does not have a rounded appearance. It has a thin wall because the tunica media, the muscular layer, is either absent or diminished. We had this one. Okay, we had this one. I appreciate that you don't mind me taking a moment to cut things out of here that are duplicates. It's going to save me a lot of time. So if you don't mind, I'm going to be doing a little extra duty anyway to help you out. Okay, now we've got some vessels. Okay, I'll start right here at the heart. And coming up from the heart, this is the superior vena cava. But you see this small vessel coming off here and circling back underneath the lungs. This is azygos. We keep going up, and here the superior vena cava branches this way and this way to the brachiocephalic veins. Common carotid artery does show. The external jugular is not good enough. It's there, but it's not one that I would ask. So what we have to do whenever we get a cat is pick the best vessels that we can. And out of a group of cats, we get them all. Okay, this shows the brachiocephalic artery here coming off of the aortic arch. I don't know if I like this one at all. There's nothing wrong here, and nothing that you haven't had. It's just that it's not pretty. I may cut it completely. This is much better, much better. Okay. Brachiocephalic artery. We'll start with the artery coming off of the arch down at the bottom here. Here's brachiocephalic artery. The first thing it does is branch into the common carotids. Here's the right, and here's the left common carotid artery. You can just call it carotid artery. Okay. Also coming off of the aortic arch, along with the brachiocephalic. In humans, it would next be common carotid, the left common carotid, but that is up here. Okay. In the cat, this difference is that the next one off is the subclavian artery, the left subclavian. Here it is. First vessel off of it is this one, the mammary. This is the mammary artery. Here's a piece of the mammary artery on the other side. Mammary artery will usually stick right up at you. And you look where it's coming from. Here's the mammary vein. Here's the vena cava, and off of the superior surface, the mammary vein comes up. Mammary vein, mammary artery. We're still following the left subclavian artery. Moving along, and this is the subscapular artery here. This is the subscapular vein right next to it. And after the subscapulars, it's always brachial. It's always brachial. This is the external jugular, and this cat has an internal jugular as well. Kidney, not an Easter egg. Here's the kidney, here's the renal vein. This is the suprarenal vein. Really goes back some distance. Where's the suprarenal gland? It's this thing right underneath it here. That's the adrenal gland. So the head region is up here, and the tail is way down here. Where's the vena cava? Where's the vena cava? Here's the vena cava. Here's the gonadal vein attaching to the renal. We can barely see it. I'm going to take a chance that I don't confuse anybody. Here's the aorta coming in. The aorta and the vena cava usually run side by side. I don't know if it was the dissection that separated them here, but you have this V shape. Okay. I'm going to look for it on another cat in just a second. The first part is the celiac trunk, which divides into the hepatic and the splenic and the gastric arteries, but they're severed. This is the first thing under the diaphragm, off of the aorta, is the celiac trunk. And the next thing off that makes this V, as I call it, okay, is the superior mesenteric, and it runs to the mesenteries themselves and delivers blood to the small intestine. Okay. Okay, we've seen that one. These were not segregated in any particular order. In other words, above or below the diaphragm. These were just what was submitted by students. We've seen this slide. It's a beautiful slide, but we've seen, okay, here's the lungs and the diaphragm. Right now the pointer is on the diaphragm, and there's the heart, and the lungs are underneath. Okay, so the head is towards the left, and the superior vena cava is coming out, and now quickly a part of it drops down like a snake, and it goes underneath the lungs. That's the azygos. You don't need to know the posterior intercostals. Okay, the legs are down here. You can see where they're splitting. Here, kidneys. So if this is the kidney, we can start here. Here's the renal vein. Here's the gonadal vein. Here's the vena cava. Coming down farther, this one going across, iliolumbar vein. Now, the aorta is also down here, running right along with the vena cava, and this vessel coming off is the inferior mesenteric. It is going to the colon, which is this structure right here. Coming at the other end, the aorta is coming in here, but the first branch off is the celiac trunk. It splits into the hepatic, the gastric, and the splenic parts. The organs will seem out of place because they've been moved to make the picture. The superior mesenteric is not present. It would be coming off here and going as a V shape with the celiac, but it's not present, must have been broken. When you get down to the iliac region or the pelvic region, you want to realize that for the arteries of the cat, you don't have a common iliac artery, but you do have external iliac arteries. I'm showing you them now. And then a little piece of aorta keeps coming on, and then it splits to the internal iliac arteries. All you have to do is get the blood to and from every place. It doesn't matter what the roadmap really looks like. Iliolumbar across here. Here's a celiac trunk that's split right here. And here's the superior mesenteric. I think it shows really well in one of the last PowerPoints. Where are we? Were we on PowerPoint 2 or 3?
I think it was 2.
Okay. You want to keep going? I'm going to go through them all, but you want to keep going right now, and you need a break, or can you just take a break?
I'm fine.
Well, you're speaking for everybody since you're the only one talking. Okay, so let's look at number 3. Now, a lot of these are going to be duplicates. We know that's a duplicate. Okay. I'm looking for anything that's new. No. Not a great picture. Nothing to know we've seen that one. This subscapular artery here is really a nice one. Yeah, this is good, but not as good as the others. They're showing the azygous vein. It's hard to get your orientation. Once you do, you're fine. There's really not much in the way of landmarks that they have used here, but that's the azygous. I'll leave it. Okay, I know we haven't seen this one. Here's the left and right common carotid, easily identified by their shape and their appearance. The aortic arch here, that's not much of an aortic arch. Okay, start with the vena cava here, and then coming up off the top, this is our first really good picture of a mammary gland, mammary vein. It's right here. It will go and then it will split in two going right and left. This is the mammary vein. The superior vena cava continues on, splits to the brachiocephalix. Okay. Looks like they're only doing veins on this one. No, they're doing both. Here's the external jugular. It's not running really straight, and they don't always have to. The transverse scapular is present, but I wouldn't hold you responsible for it. It's right here. I'd have to have a better one than that. This may or may not be an internal jugular vein. It looks like it is. It's just not colored. Here's the common carotid arteries here and here. This is a vertebral vein. Okay, vertebral vein is an oddball that comes off either off of the lower part of the superior vena cava or either or both of the brachiocephalix. It's always underneath, almost like anchoring it down, anchoring the vessels down. But what it's really doing, of course, is bringing blood back from the posterior circulation. Okay, here's the external jugular. And here they have a really good transverse scapular. Axillary artery. That's a tough one. Brachial down here. Not a good picture, of course, but just by having them point there, we got to have some reference points. This is good for the transverse scapular. Where am I? Okay, that's the one we're on. This next. Okay. Superior vena cava coming up here. A small vertebral extending downward from it. Not worth mentioning that one. The mammary artery over here. You can't see the road map, but boy, you sure can tell it by it's sort of a pigtail look. I'm looking for anything worth taking up your time with. That certainly's got to go. Transverse jugular, maxillary, facial, external jugular, another good transverse, scapular, brachial, and the common carotids are both shown. Okay, superior vena cava, brachiocephalic splits here and here, so they're showing one of them. This part that's going up is the external jugular. Here's the transverse jugular coming down. You know, I think this is the same picture we had before, but it's a better version of the picture because I can definitely see the transverse scapular there. The subscapular is coming off here, and the subclavian is between the external jugular and the subscapular. Okay, again, external jugular, transverse scapular, subscapular. Looks like the same picture. Okay. You can tell from the mammary here that we just saw this picture. So I'm looking it over for anything that's new, and I don't see anything. Okay. Here's the common carotid here on the left side. Here's the chin of the cat over here. They're absolutely correct that that is a vertebral artery there, but I've not held you for that one. I'm going to cut that one. I think a couple of them are confusing. We've seen this one before, showing the azygous. We've seen this one before, but let me point out something that's not labeled here again. Right here off of the aorta is the inferior mesenteric going to the colon. Everything else we've had. I am not going to ask you splenic, gastric, or hepatic. I'm not going to pin those three. I'm pretty sure you'll remember that just because I said it. But okay. On this one, the things that are really good, the renal vein on the left side is really good. The gonadal vein on the left side is great. The abdominal aorta is fantastic because it's right next to the inferior vena cava. Up here, this is the superior mesenteric going to the small intestine. This is superior mesenteric. Seems like we can't get superior and inferior mesenterics on the same slide. Here's the external iliac artery. Here's the common iliac vein. And out here, the external iliac vein. Right down in the middle, you have the midsacral. Here's the superior mesenteric again. Here's the cut celiac trunk. You may not realize it, but this is exactly the same picture that we just looked at. Just the orientation. Okay, I don't see anything new. Okay. Again, this is the same picture. So I'm reading the labels. Here's femoral to here. This is actually the deep femoral. They didn't label. If it's not labeled someplace on any of these pictures, I'm not going to be asking it. I mean, the test is already made up. I know what's on it. And I only chose some things that were decent. Okay, here's the inferior mesenteric again. That's great. Okay, the iliolumbars here, the external iliac arteries here, and the internal iliac arteries here. This is a good picture. Artery and vein for the femoral. This is a decent one. Okay, I don't see anything that would stop you there. I just got rid of that one. Yeah, it's too bad that this one is blurry, but you can see something. Here is the midsacral artery and vein. You can also see the external iliac arteries the internal iliac arteries. One other thing that possibly the person who did this didn't realize, this vena cava is split. It's split up high. It didn't come down as one vessel, it came down as two vessels. So I'm glad they didn't try to label anything there. It would have been confusing, but it's a blurry slide, but it's a good slide. One more here. This one's not blurry. Here's the popliteal. We haven't seen one of those. The great saphenous is here. The deep femoral is this one. They got that one right. The femoral is here. Oh, this is a great little gonadal. They're hard to catch. I don't know if I put the yellow star by that one or not. It deserves it. Okay, we only have one more, and okay, let me look it over and see if there's anything. No. This is a nice slide up close like that. Here's the superior vena cava. This is the mammary. The mammary artery is over here coming off of the left subclavian. Okay. Anyhow, at this point where it splits, this is the brachiocephalic. This one is the external jugular, and this is a very plump internal jugular vein. Here's the common carotid. Okay, on this one, off of the subclavian artery on the left side, here's the mammary. And from the other side, here comes the mammary. They both would meet in the middle, but they've been pushed over for the dissection. Here's the mammary vein. All of the veins are showing. All of the mammaries are showing. Here's the vena cava. Here's the mammary. This is a vertebral underneath. This is the external jugular. This is the external jugular. This is that large, plump, internal jugular. This is another vertebral vein popping up or going down. Okay. This is the subclavian. This is the subscapular. And after the subscapular, we have the brachial artery and vein. Here's the artery here, right next to the vein. The subscapular artery is right here, right next to the subscapular vein. Suprarenal, renal, gonadal. Here's the celiac trunk. And here's the superior mesenteric. So this one's got them on both on the same slide. And it's also got the inferior mesenteric back here. So it has all of the mesenterics. Yeah, that one's not good. Okay, this one finally has the popliteal, great saphenous, femoral up here till the popliteal splits off, and the deep femoral starting to go across here. The deep femoral is never one that you can count on seeing beautifully. It's just the way it is. Okay. Okay. Well, 4 of you managed to hang in there. Hey, any questions? How are you going to do on the test?
I'm a little nervous, but I think I can pull through.
Okay.
Yeah, me too.
Oh, that was a long one. Okay, well, if you've got some questions, I'm going to sit here for a while and unwind. If not, just let yourself out.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Charlie.
Charlie.
Bye.
Sorry, thanks.
for
Bye.
going over it with us.
Thank you so much, sir. Have a
Thank
good
you.
day. Thank you.
Thank you, Charlie. I appreciate it. Hey, before I go, I had a quick question
Sure.
about the outlines. I believe, if I'm correct, I'm missing the past 2 current outlines. Is there a way to look at that real quick?
Yep. Yes, I'm doing it right now.
Thank you very much.
You're missing 12, 15, and 16.
Oh, shoot. Okay, I guess there's one extra than I realized. So 15 and 16 are the most recent, correct?
Right, but there was 12. Now, if you find that you have it, you send it to me. Just send it again. But I looked and I didn't see it.
Okay, great. Thanks, Charlie. I appreciate it.
Okay.
Have a good rest of your night, and we'll be seeing you soon.
Okay. See you Tuesday.